So I'll count it off.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3.
Just twice go.
1, 2, 3, go.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Howdy, folks. Welcome back to the rehearsal room. Nick here.
Aaron's here.
Aaron, why don't you take a moment to introduce us to this week's?
No problem. I mean, it's just kind of been a debate, I imagine, since the beginning of time, or at least certainly the beginning of rock and roll.
Yeah.
But certainly one that started, I guess, on the, if you could say, viral, the Twitter spheres and so forth.
Yeah.
2020, Hank Azaria, most people would know him, the voice of on Simpsons, Moe, Chief Wiggum, comic book guy. He was in Birdcage, Along Came Polly. He put out on Twitter, essentially, that what are the greatest rock bands of all time? 9 times out of 10, your top 4 or 5 are going to all be British. You're talking the Stones, the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, Who, all British. So what are the greatest American rock bands? Which was an interesting question, because I think one of the things that makes it kind of interesting is how many of the great rock musicians, especially historically and so forth, have actually been solo artists, especially the history of it.
That's one of the things that affects my...
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Affects my list.
It's very tough.
tremendously.
Yeah, it's very tough because especially if you just want to like make it somewhat historical. Like, well, Bob Dylan's out, to a degree. Little Richard's gone. Elvis is gone.
Roy Orbison is gone.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, wait, yeah, damn. Like, it is amazing how much of essentially the idea of being a solo artist is much bigger than, at least in the ones that are predominant in America, than the predominant ones in England or a band, you know? So that was an interesting thing. All in all, when he was done, he believed the 2 that came out on top for him, one of them I think will be on both of our lists. The other one wouldn't touch my list with a 10-foot pole, but he went with The Doors and Aerosmith.
Okay.
He believed. So that's where it kind of came down to for him. And, of course, the debate raged on. And I always thought it was an interesting debate in general because, obviously, there's a lot of factors that go into whatever would make your list, but also keeping somewhat of a criteria that I think is, one, should be a band.
Should be a band. Okay.
Yes, so a band. So, unfortunately, that eliminates, in my personal opinion, someone like Prince. Prince, while having a band, let's be honest, it's Prince.
Right.
He's writing everything. They're recording what he tells them to write. I also think that includes a 9 Inch Nails because ultimately he writes and performs everything and then goes out with a band.
What about somebody like NWA?
Well, not a rock group.
Okay.
And I would say, again, they're not rock. And that's another separation. So for me, while there are elements of what perhaps the Temptations did or Ray Charles might have done, again, although he's solo, and certainly an influence on rock. One band I know, again, will be on both of our lists, is heavily influenced by somebody like a Ray Charles, is going to be eliminated simply because they're not technically playing what we know as American rock and roll.
Okay.
So Frank Zappa, for instance.
Sure.
I know he has the mothers of invention, but we know who the inventor really is, and it's Frank.
Okay. All right.
So for me, those were unfortunate ones. Somebody like a Neil Young, not American.
Right.
He's Canadian, so he is eliminated, So just trying to keep that criteria and then kind of say what is rock for, America.
Now, are we doing... Okay, so here's the other question, because this also... Again, I fear I might have messed up getting this list together. I stuck to the rock part.
Uh-huh.
I stuck to the band part.
Okay.
But is this my favorite American band?
Oh, absolutely.
Or what I think should be America's top 10?
And again, this is, to me, let's be completely honest here.
Yeah.
Myself, I tried to stick to my favorites, but you and I, this is where we differ a lot of times.
Yeah.
I like the history part of it. And I like to kind of tell us, just put a story in that top 10 and be honest about the top 10.
Yeah.
Having said that, if you want to just go my favorite American band, by all means.
I did that.
And that's fine.
Okay.
I don't think that criteria matters one way or the other, because
Okay.
it should be a personal list however you wish to make it personal.
Okay.
The
I did
reality is,
use-
I'm going to have some honorable mentions that some are going to be ones that you probably have on your list.
Uh-huh.
Others will be you'd never fucking consider in your life.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I think they're some of my favorite bands, or there's even bands on my list that, quite frankly, I'm not going to profess to be the world's biggest fan of. Not at all.
And there's going to be one omission, I think, that is going to be, I even think, surprising.
Okay.
Everything else is very incredibly stereotypical of me.
That's fine.
And I think, if anyone's heard any previous episodes, they might, even more so than I would see this coming a mile away. People are going to be like, oh, of course.
And
that
listen,
one,
I think there will be ones on my list that people will do the same thing.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? It's just that, yes, I do feel there should be some historical part of, like, and for me,
Right.
I want it to tell, like, when I think of American rock and roll, what are the bands that just feel like the moment you hear them, that's an American rock band?
Sure.
You know what I
Okay.
mean? And so that's why that's how I compiled my list.
There
per se.
is some of that in some of these choices, because I did consider the fact that, well, you'll when we break into it, I'll explain it
Absolutely.
as each option came up, why I think it fits not just the criteria,
Right.
but also going in line with the fact that they are my
Yeah.
choices.
No. And again, look, like a lot of these, there are no right or wrong answers.
Oh yeah, but I think people are gonna,
unless you say the Eagles or the Aerosmith, you're wrong. But other than
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But if I have to hear the Strokes, you're wrong. But other than that,
Yeah,
I mean, like
yeah.
I said, listen, Aerosmith and the Eagles will never touch my list.
Right.
I don't like those
Same,
bands. I
same,
despise them.
same.
But I do understand where people would put them on their list. I do. I
Yeah,
get it.
I even looked up other people's lists as far as like these
Same.
types of
Oh, yeah.
criteria, and I saw a lot of Red Hot Chili Peppers,
Right.
which I'm sorry guys,
Yeah, never gonna
but
happen.
We've been down that.
Oh,
route,
it'll be on a
right?
top. It'll be on a top 10 list, but it will not be for great.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And then I saw a couple of other ones where I was like, all right, I get why they would say that also, but
For
that's
sure.
not the criteria that I'm going with.
And this is
you
the
know?
beauty of these things. Let's be completely honest. It's just like when we do our movie ones.
Yeah.
Look, there's a lot of guys who are going to be, as I bring him up a bunch. Sam Peckinpah. Yeah, I know. I've just not seen his movies.
Right. Yeah,
It's just, you're probably right. Like, I want to mix the historical, but I need to be authentic to who I am.
Yes.
Also,
yeah.
you know what I
Okay.
mean? Again, there are bands that are going to be on my list that I'm not the world's biggest fan of, but I feel like to leave them out because of how integral they are to the maturation and what becomes American rock,
Yeah.
that to leave them out to me feels ridiculous.
Some
But
of these, even though again they are
Mhm.
very stereotypical to
Mhm.
me, that is also my reason.
Good.
Because
No,
I do, when I hear them, I think, well, there's no, people hear that and they think, oh, that's an American band,
Right.
And
And again, these aren't pretentious. I'm not trying to win any brownie points with my list. You know
Right,
what I mean?
yeah.
I think it's authentic to who I am. And that's all
Yeah,
I
yeah,
give a
yeah.
shit about. And the beauty is to debate and see how many I can think of at least two that I'm sure we'll both have on our list. Probably three.
probably.
Probably three that
'Cause
I'm
this
thinking
one
as
I'm
I'm
telling
thinking
you,
right
this-
now. But it'll be interesting, and I think that's the beauty of this. Look, if you and I just sat here and jacked each other off the same top 10 list, I mean, we'd enjoy it.
Yeah,
Especially
this would
especially
still
the
be a
jacking
great
off
show.
part.
Yeah, this would
But,
still be a
yeah,
great episode.
I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
don't think, you know what I mean? It's like it should have some personal value to
Okay,
you.
all right.
Like
all
it
right.
doesn't, like, yes, it would be. There's a band on my list that, again, I'm not the world's biggest fan of, and God knows they'll give you a lot of brownie points when you put them on there,
Sure.
but they deserve to be on there also. Do you
Okay.
know what I mean? And when we get to that, I will, because I
That
imagine-
one is a one. I think none of these bands deserve these spots, but
Mhm.
because I like them to this extent,
I feel
that
you.
is what places them.
And again, I think that part, if we can keep it to bands, not solo artists
Yeah.
and American,
Yeah.
then the rest is really up to the individual.
That's also what made it incredibly difficult, because instantly I was like, oh, this is easy.
Yeah.
And then every band that I looked up, I was like, oh, wait, these
Yeah.
are not American.
Nope.
Yeah, so
And
this is
it-
going to be our more U.S.-centric list.
Yes.
that
And when I
we've
say
done.
America, yes, we should say U.S. Our neighbors to the north are
Yeah.
technically in America,
Yeah.
and our amigos to the south are technically in America, but we are not counting them.
That's
Well, this
Spanish
is-
for friends.
Yes, it
by
is.
the
I
way.
believe it is. I hope so. I hope I said that right. But this is the U.S. of A.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? Bands that formed here in the U.S. of A. with Americans.
Anyone listening, this is our 4th of July episode.
Right. But again, this is always something I always find interesting in general, and I think it's the way it sparked the debate went viral very quickly from a simple question, and realizing also again that when you think of the greatest bands of all time, most lists, those top 5 are not American,
Right.
and yet we damn near invented the fucking genre, and it got thrown back at us by the British.
You're gonna see, you're gonna see the way my list is skewed, even with my honorable mentions.
I got you. Oh, so you do have some honorable mentions?
I do.
Okay,
I do,
good.
yeah.
You want to start first with your honorable mentions?
You know what?
or
You go first,
Okay.
because
So some honorable mentions for myself. One that I really did want to put on, but I know how divisive they are, and that is Steely Dan. I am a big Steely Dan fan, love them very much, but I understand how divisive they are. A lot of the criticism, I totally understand that. As a fan of Steve Albini, who has been very critical of them, he says a lot of stuff that I definitely agree with, but I still very much love those records and the impact they have had in American culture and American rock and roll and its mix of jazz and blues and everything else. I think they definitely should be considered, you know?
Yeah.
Another one that was tough for me not to put on, but I felt there were 2 bands that could have fit in there. I'll say them at the same time. Leonard Skinner and the Allman Brothers.
Okay.
You know, Skinner is maybe the more rock and roll version of the Allman Brothers. They were more jam bandy, which is interesting because the 2 things that keep them off my list is the Allman Brothers are more jam bandy. I love the song The Whipping Post, but the live 25-minute version of it is a little, hey guys, you know?
Reel it in.
Reel it in a little bit.
Yeah.
No wonder this is a double album, you know?
Yeah.
With Skinner, the thing that also kept them off is when we talk Skinner, let's be honest, we should be talking about the first incarnation of Skinner, because the Fox News party band known as Leonard Skinner now is not the Leonard Skinner that made the legacy of who they are, you know?
Yeah.
So another one that, in fact, may be on your list. In fact, I'll combine these two, too, because I think they're both in that same way. The Stooges and the MC5s.
I did have the Stooges
I
it was
you
on
would.
my honorable mentions.
Oh, on your honorable? Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. So both of those bands, you cannot deny their impact, as small as their career really was.
Right.
But, you know, whether it was the MC5's political leanings, showing white people that, hey, we can get involved too and be militant, and kick out the jams, motherfucker, as it should be always affectionately titled. I mean, come on, you know.
Yeah.
The Stooges, you know, the precursor to punk, the precursor to this idea that you don't have to be super talented and yet you can still make great records that sound raw.
Yeah.
And to even to this day, you go like, wow, this feels like
It's
immediate.
It's
as I'm
like
listening.
punk and garage rock.
Yes.
And even artsy.
Yes.
You know, it's
Which
all that
is
in
a lineage of a
once.
band that again, I do think will be on both of our lists. It's a direct lineage from one of those bands.
Yeah.
The last 2 that I had on, Parliament Funkadelics.
Oh, okay.
Which
All
I
right.
think is a seminal band when you think about the influence, once again, bringing African Americans back into rock and roll that for a long time were kind of pushed out, you know, and showing, oh, no, motherfuckers, we can rock just as hard as you, and it's called funk. What's this?
Yeah,
and then, you know, their influence on funk, their influence on rock and roll, and then, of course, their influence on hip-hop.
Yep.
There is no Dr. Dre G-Funk, the G in G-Funk, you know what I mean? It's coming from Parliament Funkadelic. And my last one, only because one band I felt historically needed to be above them, but my last one was Black Flag.
Okay.
Where I feel like if you want to talk about a band that has influenced and kept influencing, it's Black Flag.
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree.
punk, DIY, all that sort of thing. Huge band, massive. The American hardcore sound is what Black Flag is.
Yeah.
You know,
I agree.
those were my honorable
Okay.
mentions. How about yourself?
Great ones. So the Stooges was one of them
Right on.
for the same reasons.
Yeah.
You know, you listen to just how artistic they were.
Yes.
Even you know, in albums like Funhouse and stuff like that, and it's an artistic that still feels new.
Yeah.
Right. Like when you put it on.
Yeah.
And of course you get Iggy Pop out of the Stooges, and him on his own is already great.
One of rock's great characters also, you know?
one of the first characters of, right?
Well, certainly,
Like especially like in when it came to like underground type of music,
no doubt,
right? Like this guy who was already bigger than
Yeah.
than life, and even to the point where he influenced what David Bowie wanted to do.
Oh yeah, I mean,
know?
Bowie kind of almost put his career on hold just to go produce his records.
Yeah, exactly,
and,
right?
And help
So
him come up with stuff. Yeah,
yeah, so another one on my list was Bad Brains.
for sure. Okay,
Band
yeah.
in DC is one of the classic albums.
Absolutely.
And I think anybody who knows rock music,
Yeah.
especially if you want something that's underground, a little subversive,
Mhm.
HR and the boys kind of came in and did what punk was to be
Mhm.
better than anybody could have,
Mhm.
but from the get-go.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
They
Great
came
band.
out as an explosion. They took a couple of weird turns, but the music even then, when they
Yeah.
became Soul Brains, was really good.
Yeah.
It,
I got you.
It had soul, it had punk,
Yeah.
it had funk, and of course the metal aspect. At
Mhm.
one point when they did the Eye Against Eye album, it was great.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then they're all top-notch musicians.
Oh, that's a great one. That's
yeah.
yeah.
So another one of mine was Blondie,
Okay. Yeah.
mixing the art punk type with more pop hooks.
No doubt. Even
Introdu-
disco.
Even disco, exactly. So when you're doing that at a time when there is a division
Sure.
of like, hey, this is ours and this is yours,
Yeah.
and she comes in and says, no, screw all that.
Yeah.
I like it all.
Yeah.
Right? And then great voice
Oh,
on
yeah.
top of the awesome musicians.
No doubt.
So
Also, the female fronted thing, the part where
Female
she's,
fronted,
I may
yeah.
be good looking, but if you fuck with me, I'm gonna punch you right in the
I'm
mouth.
a punch you, because she was still tough. She was
Yeah,
a punk.
She
was a
absolutely
punker,
was.
right?
Absolutely.
So the fact that she's singing these disco hits like Heart of Glass and
yeah.
all this stuff, eventually leading them to do the soundtrack for Scarface also,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
It's it's a band that not only held its own in this burgeoning New York punk art scene,
Yeah.
but went on and got a lot of commercial success.
Oh
after
yeah,
the
for
fact,
sure,
right?
for
Like,
sure.
So
yeah. Evolved with the times in ways without giving up any credibility whatsoever.
yeah, right. So
great-
the last
great
one that I have on here is the Ramones.
Okay.
To me, one of the
Oh, yeah.
penultimate pop rock bands.
yeah,
You
absolutely.
I mean, we can go into the argument about punk and all that
sure,
stuff,
but
they
come
are
on.
bubblegum pop.
Yeah.
right? They wrote romantic songs.
they absolutely did.
It was pop music.
As I always say,
for-
they're the Beach Boys with leather jackets.
exactly. Yeah, and they did it in a way that was cool,
Yeah.
and they carved out an identity for them, and to their credit, every member that passed through that band stuck to that identity.
Oh, absolutely.
right. So
And highly influential.
highly
Not
influential.
even outside of punk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah,
Great.
so, yeah,
no, that's a
Ramones,
great list.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So all right, there, number 10.
Right on. Okay, my number 10, I went with the White Stripes.
Nice. Yeah. Okay.
To me, this was a band that, through no fault of their own in any way, because I hate to put that burden on any band, but we've had the episode. Apparently, rock was dead for the 90th time, and along came bands like the White Stripes, the Hives, the Strokes, the Eels, and all, and they resurrected rock and roll. Thank God, But the reality is, in a lot of ways, they kind of did. For the
Yeah.
general public, they really did. But combining those things of like garage rock and punk, and coming from Detroit also, that MC5, that Stooges feel, also the sense of mystery, this idea that, oh, we're brother and sister, we wear red and white, this whole, like, bringing kind of the aesthetic back to rock and roll, but, also in a genre that usually pushes away from that.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, no. You just look like you walked up on stage because you just got done, working at the mill. What are you
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
putting on a costume? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just think they're one of those, certainly in the last 20, 30 years, I think they're going to be one of those bands that lasts forever. Everyone will
Yeah.
rediscover the White Stripes.
I mean, they've made themselves popular by having a, as their so-called jock rock hit kind of, right, with Seven Nation Army.
Yeah.
But I think if people are curious, they hear that, explore the catalog,
I hope
and then
so.
realize, like, holy smokes, there's a whole bunch of songs that are kind of
it's-
better than this one.
And
you
I'm
know?
glad you're saying this because I think I'm going to be a broken record on this on so many of these bands. And
Yeah.
I will say the White Stripes. the things if you're not familiar with the band, but you think you know because you've heard a few songs, I promise you they're
don't.
not the
Yeah.
best of what they do.
Yeah.
And I think that's the sign of one of the great bands all time.
Yeah.
It's that, no, their hits are hits for a reason, and they're fucking great.
They're great.
But
yeah.
I promise you dive into these albums, and you'll find some deep cuts that are
Yep.
way better than the things you're hearing on the radio.
Exactly.
And the White Stripes were definitely one of those. And, you're right. Like, I think that's sometimes a sign of a band that has reached a certain a point of, Jack White has said, Seven Nation Army isn't my song anymore.
Right.
In fact, let's be honest, 80% of the people go on the dun, 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 have no fucking idea what that song is.
Exactly,
And can't
yeah.
go past that. But that's okay. Who cares? It's a beautiful thing that there's this thing that unites, and they don't even know why.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think that's really cool. And to enter that also says a lot about that band. And it kind
Yeah,
of the
for
song
sure.
in general, that they could write something that is hummed along at stadiums, is especially for being an indie rock band.
Yeah.
So
they
they're
know-
not a jock rock band.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. They know that if just in enough of that pop sensibility,
Right.
they can have this almost throwaway song, which is ultimately what they became.
Yeah.
But when you go deeper into their catalog, it's well crafted stuff. And the fact that playing it live is just two of them interpreting all this other stuff.
I mean, he's a hell of a guitar player. She is I guess you could say, one-of-a-kind drummer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, like...
we can be honest. She is a limited drummer.
But the
you know?
limitations is what makes their sound.
And
I think
I do say that only because of what their music is.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's not
But
trying
in-
to be progressive
in the
that way.
context, in the sandbox of what the White
There it
Stripes
is.
music is.
There it is.
It's the best drumming you can have.
And
it's what you need.
And
in that
Jack
band.
has always said, like, the reality is there is no White Stripes without Meg.
Exactly.
Her
Yeah.
drumming is what keeps me rudimentary. It allows
Sure.
me to go way out there on a solo,
Yep.
but keeps me in this, okay, I got to keep it in this 3 thing right here, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So, yeah, they were my number 10. I know you're a big fan. I'm a huge fan
I-
of them.
I
I,
love
don't think
White
they have a
Stripes,
bad
yeah.
album.
No.
I love to watch them grow, and I think their legacy will stand the test of time.
I already like your list a lot more than mine. My number 10 is, again, typical of me. It is Slayer.
Right on.
Slayer, I think, are the better of the bands in the Big Four.
Okay.
I think they're the most aggressive one.
Hands
They're the
down.
ones that kind of define what thrash is, with more aggressive.
Yes.
More intense.
Yes.
I know the other 3 bands might have had songs that fit that description. But
Certainly an album or two in their early years, but
yeah, and I think Slayer maybe were the more consistent.
Oh, for sure.
Right? The more
For
that
sure.
stuck to what they were
No doubt about it.
throughout their run. Maybe one misstep along
Yeah.
the way.
But even still, it was still a Slayer album.
It is still Slayer, right? I think also the way they have influenced other bands.
Oh, for sure.
Where I don't know. I mean, the fact that you write something in the context of thrash, and you can say this is the Slayer part, and people automatically know what you're talking about,
Dude.
right?
I think another thing we're going to find on our list, because it kind of came up in mine also, was I remember Vernon Reid saying it one time about one of my favorite bands, Rush, saying that
I'm sorry, who?
that they create their own language.
Yes, yeah.
Their music is their own language.
Yep.
And you're right. Oh, that's a Slayer part. It's
That's a
because
Slayer
Slayer created their own language.
Yeah.
Their music is so definable as Slayer that when you hear somebody else do it, you go, ooh, that's a cool Slayer part.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then when you hear even the twin guitars, which is not specific to them,
No,
because
no.
they took it from Maiden.
Yes.
But when you hear it again as aggressive
Oh,
and as
yes.
abrasive as they do it,
Yes.
Intensity.
It's-
It's an intense, and having the spaced out drumming
Mhm.
of either Paul Bostaff or Dave Lombardo,
Right.
it's awesome. It's
Oh,
just,
it's-
it singles them out.
Oh, for sure.
I think in a world of American thrash, of which
Mhm.
there are many bands.
Oh, very, yeah.
Slayer is still, of course, one of the
Oh,
cream
yes.
of the crop, right?
No doubt about it. I think that's a fantastic selection. I'm not against it at all.
Cool. All right.
No. I look again.
I'm
There's no wrong
I'm
answers.
sweating bullets
No,
on this.
there's no wrong answers, man. And it should be different. We have different tastes, so it's going to be different. One that may very well be on yours and certainly is on mine. Number 9 is Neurosis.
Okay.
I mean, obviously anyone who's ever listened to this podcast knows how Nick and I feel about that band
Yeah.
and how much they mean to us. You talk about a band that created their own language. You talk about a band that literally changed a course of metal in a lot of ways. Even if they don't embrace it, and I'm not a fan of the name post-metal, you can't say they didn't create it. You can't say that it's not there because of their sound.
Yeah.
And how many bands exist simply because they picked up through Silver and Blood.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
The Ocean, ISIS, all these bands that it's very clear somebody picked up a Neurosis record.
Yeah.
And when you look at, I think another thing is the way this band has changed over the years and yet stuck to their guns. I love that. I love the idea that it's like taking that punk DIY and taking it even further into a career that says, if that means Joe jobs so that we can create what we want on our terms, that's what we will do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We will stay insular. We will not be subject to anyone else to tell us how to make our shit. Easy to do when you're a small punk band and you're on a tiny label.
Yeah.
Harder to do as you get a little bit more and money's being offered and big tours are coming. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And to just see those guys stick to their guns the way they have, to have the longevity that they've had. Plus, the other thing that I think our list will share too is how many of these bands, perhaps their impact when they came out wasn't as strong as it is now.
Yeah.
Because they were so ahead of their time that it wasn't, the general public couldn't pick up on the frequency almost.
Yeah.
And I just think that that's another one I think of impact in American rock and roll and the umbrella that rock and roll is.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a band, especially in underground music, that we love that's made a bigger impact in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, that was my number 9. How about yourself?
Number 9, I have Deicide.
Okay.
So this was a weird one because I could have gone with any of the other death metal bands,
Sure.
especially Morbid Angel, Cannibal Corpse,
Sure,
Death,
sure.
Obituary. I think when Deicide came out, they did the death metal game a little bit more, again, sticking to the aggressive side.
Yeah.
They were more in your face.
Oh, for sure.
They were characters, aside from maybe Trey Azagthoth from
Sure.
Morbid Angel.
Yeah.
Like, Deicide had the big guys in the band, right?
I got you.
The big aggressive looking guys.
They
in the
looked
band.
exactly as they sounded.
Yes.
That
you know,
should come out of 4 guys that look like they could rip
exactly.
us into
Yeah.
shreds.
So there was melody in there
Sure.
as inharmonious as it was.
Mhm.
There was musicianship
Oh,
there, right?
no doubt.
But the thing is, it was just a little bit more brutal for me.
Oh, for sure.
You know, the fact that you can come out, in my opinion, 4 albums from the get go.
Oh,
You know, leave an instant mark on what you're trying to do in a in
I
a
got
new
you.
scene, in the
Yeah,
death
yeah.
metal scene coming out.
yeah.
You know, and stand out, which for me they always did.
Well, and let's, it is easy to forget now. One of the things that stood out was that there were a lot of bands that said, boy, I'm not really big on religion.
Right.
The way they took that
The
stance,
way they
people
did it,
don't,
yeah.
now it feels, yeah, we got you, Glenn. You're,
Sure,
you're
yeah.
cute. No.
Back then you
It
were
was like,
scared of
oh
what they were
my
saying.
God,
yeah.
dude. Like, I don't think you're allowed to say that. You know what I
Exactly,
mean?
yeah.
So, yeah, those kind of impactful things, you can't, I agree. And, again, I love Deicide, and especially those first 4 are unfuckwithable.
Yeah.
They are amazing death metal records that to this day are still very influential.
Yeah, I think so. And when you look at the character of Glenn Benton,
Mm-hmm.
right? He's singing what he's singing, and he looks the way he does. Plus, then he goes and burns an upside down cross in his head,
Yeah.
which just drives home the visual impact of this band.
Oh, yeah.
right.
All the things that they told us Ozzy and AC/DC were.
Exactly.
No, he was.
Yeah, he
was
was.
doing
Yeah.
these things.
He's the dude.
You're worried about me listening to Highway to Hell. This guy is giving me directions.
Yeah, this guy's giving you a ride, right?
Like, hop on, pal, we're going. AC/DC's just showing you. I'm telling you, it's over there. And he's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm right over here.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
fuck yeah.
So,
No, Deicide, amazing band, amazing.
all right.
My number 8, I went with Metallica.
Okay.
To me,
Dude,
they
yeah.
are in for the general public and for many people, they are metal.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, anyone who's listening to this podcast certainly knows we are talking early years only. For me, it's the first 5. After that, they go a different direction. Let them do their thing. Congratulations, very successful. You're making lots of money. Do you? I'm not mad. But when you think about the reality is like most metalheads our age especially, it's probably your first band. It's
sure.
probably the band that got you into metal. You know, that kind of an impact is huge for a lot of reasons. Because, again, for the limitations that Lars may have, one of the things he's very good at, especially with James, they're kind of the Lennon and McCartney of metal.
Yeah.
They write amazing songs.
Yeah.
I also think, to your point, as you said, with thrash, when they talk about the big four,
Yeah.
Metallica, to me, we've talked about this, is to say, I think Metallica saw, especially in those early days, I hate to say it, but the limitations that thrash gave, especially from its own scene, Exodus, and said, well, I don't want to be limited.
Right.
I got this guy Cliff Burton in the band, and he's introducing us to a ton of shit outside of metal that I want to put in my music.
Yeah.
And to take that step, to be bold enough to put a Fade to Black on your second album.
Yeah.
To be bold enough to do a Master of Puppets and its epicness.
Yeah.
You know, to put out a Justice for All that's as political as any Dead Kennedys album has ever been. You know what I mean? Like, that's, you got to really say they are one of those pillar bands, and as an American metal band, there are a few that can really hold their own against them.
Yeah,
you know?
especially
despite their career leanings now. You know.
Yeah, especially back then, they did take a lot of more chances.
Absolutely,
right? And
absolutely.
That's what it yielded.
Yes.
Like every album that they experimented on, not just what they were playing, but how they were recording the albums. You know, so that, I mean,
it's
props
huge.
to Metallica.
It
right?
is,
like,
and I think that's it. Ultimately, is like, look, Metallica means a lot to me. The first five, they changed my life in every sense of the word. I know for a fact I would not be the metalhead that I am without Metallica.
Right.
You know, so but you're right. Like, yes, they took a path that I didn't want to go down, but that's okay. The impact that even those first five have are tremendous, and there may not be another metal band that ever makes that kind of impact.
Right.
I mean, their impact, you could say in many ways, is even stronger than anything Priest or Maiden ever did. They may have laid the kind of the road for them to roll on. But
I would think so. Yeah.
I mean, Metallica turned it into a freeway.
Yeah,
you know?
I would think so. Yeah.
And the bands that they've influenced on top of it. So yeah, they were a big one that I knew would be on my list. I think they're properly rated for me at 8. You know, but that was my number 8. How about yourself?
My number 8 is The Doors. The first
Surprised
of
they're a
the
little slow, but okay.
Yeah, well, that's
that's
the
good.
first of the esoteric type of bands that
For
I started, to think about. You think about The Doors, you think about, again, being more artistic, more emotional even with the lyrics, right? Very experimental with the music.
Absolutely.
But also kind of mixing scenes as far as like music with the psychedelic and the rock, like the straightforward rock.
Absolutely.
Right? You have a lot of Spanish music, classical influence from Robbie Krieger.
Yep.
A lot of jazz drumming from John Densmore.
Big time.
So the fact that they're able to come together, having these different backgrounds, right? And then you have Jim Morrison with his poetry, which, poetry aside, he is a bad poet, but he's a great frontman.
Right? One of the better. I mean, the voice of Elvis.
Voice of Elvis.
The body of a god.
The body of an Adonis, right?
Yeah.
And
sexy as fuck. I mean, he looks good on an album cover, you know?
He was everything that we needed a dramatic vocalist to be at that time.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
When I know bands later popped up, like, for example, we get the, what's not the New Order, but the one, Joy Division.
Yes.
And stuff like that. Like, Morrison takes from that. Morrison takes from that and makes it sexy, I think, to a way that's also very American.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's very gothic without goth rock
without being European.
Just yet. It hadn't been. There is no such thing as goth rock necessarily at that time, but you can definitely hear his influence on goth rock.
I also
there's a darkness to the Doors too that for bands at that time certainly. Certainly, and I'll talk about it because they are definitely on my list.
Yeah.
I will talk about it more there, but like also the idea that like they could write really dark songs, but then "Hello, I Love You" comes on. That's just a pop song,
that's
baby.
A pop song, yeah.
You know, like no wonder that was a hit. You know?
Yeah, of course, yeah. And I think it became a trope afterwards of like the student studying like foreign affairs and foreign arts and stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
He was that, in a very visible way, right? And, of course, when you dress that up in leather pants and a flowing shirt and it looks as good as it does with a conch shell belt, Yeah, you get a good rock band in the end.
Absolutely. And an underrated musician, too. Like, he didn't write music and he couldn't play, but he did come into that band with a lot of, I have an idea, and would hum it out.
Yep.
And those
Yep.
guys would come and go, God damn, that's pretty damn good for a guy who can't play a fucking instrument. You know what I mean? So, no, they are definitely on my list. My number 7, I did include them, the Ramones.
Okay.
To me, again, the granddaddies of punk.
Yeah.
I know punk got heavier. I know punk didn't stay as pop, on and on and on. We could argue all that. But the reality is, before you could really put a name on it, they were doing it.
Yeah.
As I said, Beach Boys in leather jackets. Because there's, the Beach Boys may have said, be true to your school. Well, they were talking about, let's go sniff some glue, You know what I mean? Like, let's beat on the brat.
Right.
You know what I mean? And just this idea of, like, Pin Gillette tells the story, like, he remembers seeing that cover and going, I got to buy this. And he took it home, and the first song, he goes, well, that was cool. Well, what was the next song? Oh, the next song sounds almost exactly like the first song. Well, they're not going to do that again. Holy shit, they're going to do this for the entire album.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like,
Yep.
nope. If you like this, you're going to love every song on here,
Yeah.
And just the aesthetic, the idea that we're all black hair, leather jacket, jeans, and this is how we're going to look all the time.
Yeah.
You're going to know us. Probably, let's be honest, maybe one of the most iconic logos all time.
One of, I think.
I mean, even if you don't know them, you've seen it.
Yeah.
You know what
I mean, it's up there with, the Rolling Stones lips and everything.
Grateful
and
Dead's Bear and all
the
that other
Bear,
shit,
yeah,
for sure.
for sure.
And I just think, like, interestingly enough, they are the version, much like the White Stripes. What they all they really did was go back to the basics.
Yep.
Repackaged what we all loved in the early days of rock and roll and just amplified it a little bit more and sped it up a little bit
All
more.
the stuff that you would find in, like, 50s, like,
They love the Ronettes just as much as they love the Stooges.
100%.
You know what I mean? It's just as much as they love the MC5s, they were into the Beach Boys. And
Yep.
it's just like, we just combined the two. And
Yep.
it's just like,
Yeah.
genius. And you just go, yeah, nobody ever thought of that before. They did it. And God knows how many people have been influenced by them.
Yeah.
For good and for bad. I know pop punk is one of those things that maybe not everybody's a fan of, but nonetheless, if you have a pop punk band, if you're not listening to the Ramones, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
You know?
That's like the start of
Yeah,
everything.
it's got to be, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, they were my number 7. How about you?
My number 7 is Black Flag. Yeah. Black
Right on.
Flag, as you mentioned, one of the originators of hardcore punk
For
out
sure.
here in the West. I think with Greg Ginn being as experimental as he was on guitar, discovering his sound all of his own, using, as it is in the name of the label, solid state amplifiers, transmitters, and then getting the kind of the whirling parade of vocalists that they had, who all defined punk in their own way. With Keith Morris, with Ron Reyes, ultimately it was Henry Rollins and Des Cadena.
Yeah.
When they came out, every other punk band wanted to be like them, whether it was
Oh.
in music or in the way they did things,
Right.
by touring,
Right.
so nonstop, being as DIY as they were.
Yes.
They set the example.
Yeah.
They went around the country, and every band that ever saw them or just heard about them, that's who we're gonna be like.
Yeah,
right?
no doubt about it.
So I think when it comes to just even American punk or hardcore punk,
Yeah.
you know of Black Flag and you know about the impact that they made.
Absolutely.
I
think that's, again, they were an honorable mention simply because I've already had put the Ramones on.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have had them on my list.
Yeah.
But I just thought, if I, like I said, I want to put a little history in mind. Well, then the Ramones came first.
Yeah.
So I just think to myself, like, but you cannot, if you're defining American rock and roll and all of its subgenres within, and punk is one of them, you cannot do it without talking about Black Flag.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
End of story. Absolutely. And interestingly enough, you talk about influential, and you talk about even doing things their own way. It leads right into my number 6, which is the Velvet Underground.
Nice.
Again, I will not profess to be the biggest fan of the Velvet Underground, but I don't know how you can't define American rock and everything that came prior. It's like a AD and a BC when it comes to the Velvet Underground and what they were doing. Singing about going to see the Man in 1967, and it's about picking up heroin. Wow, dude. Art rock, dream pop, drone, noise, folk, dissonance. They're putting all this in one record.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have this classically trained John Cale with a bunch of other people who could barely pick up an instrument, and yet they somehow flowed. You know what I mean? the art rock of it all, of course, being with, what's his name, Warhol,
Oh yeah.
and obviously that helped them a little bit, kind of, Also, you could also say defining a New York sound,
Yeah.
And I mean, if avant-garde has ever been applied to an American rock band, they had to be the first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they were taking avant-garde things, but they were doing it in a rock format, which had not been done before. I mean, certainly at that level. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
No one's ever the first, but let's be honest. If there ever was a first, it might have been the Velvet Underground. And the quote I always love, I finally found out who it was, is Brian Eno. Brian Eno has said, I will read it. The first Velvet Underground only sold about 30,000 copies, but everyone who bought one started a band. So what other artist or group has outsized impact or influence on music, especially ones that remained relatively niche or obscure as this band of bands?
Yeah.
And I got to say something for that. That it really is much, and I think ties right back in a bit to Black Flag. You're right. People saw the Velvet Underground and immediately went, I want to start a band.
Yeah.
For instance, one that you mentioned, the Stooges. I remember seeing an interview with Iggy Pop, and he said, I love the Velvet Underground. As soon as I put it on and I heard, what's his name, singing, he went, oh, he can't sing. Neither can I. Awesome. I can start a band. This is cool. I thought I had to be able to sing.
Yeah.
The idea that it freed people to realize, like, oh, there are no rules.
Right.
I could just do whatever. So, yeah, for me, number 6, Velvet Underground. Massive band, huge impact on American rock and roll in every sense of the word.
I like it. My number 6 is Fugazi,
Oh.
who were kind of stalwarts of the Black Flag like type of thinking.
No doubt.
Where they did everything DIY,
Yeah,
incredibly DIY. Famously keeping shows at $5, especially in a time when shows were getting expensive, even for that type of music. Doing more experimental versions of punk.
Right. Expanding the walls, the barriers that was still punk.
Yeah, and it kind of at one point became known as noise, and at one point it was indie rock, and then emo. So it really was like the catalyst for all these other scenes to kind of start taking off, right? But I think Fugazi did it in a way that was a little bit more admirable, even just because they were very visible also, right? They were very accessible also. Like, even they might not have done a lot of interviews and stuff like that.
No, I know what you mean.
But they were there.
Well, they're kind of that, like that book title, this could be your band. You know what I mean? It's like you didn't show up to a Fugazi and it was like, Fugazi's over there and we're here. Like,
right.
no,
Yeah.
we're all here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And again, those guys looked just like regular folks off the street. They didn't look like your typical punk folks. You know, they didn't have an outfit. And I think the fact that they come out of the entire Discord scene, which was Washington D.C., that lends just credibility to the fact that Fugazi is being backed by this label. You know, so just imagine it's all about the DIY aspect of the label, feeding into the music, feeding into the crowd.
Oh, yeah.
So what I like was that a bunch of those early shows that Fugazi did, easily all the people in the crowd made their own bands and then kept the DC going on.
Absolutely.
Afterwards,
And different types of bands.
Different
things from what Fugazi was doing.
Yeah, they just reinterpreted the Fugazi stuff in different ways.
Absolutely.
And got, the other bands that we got.
No,
out of that.
again, a fantastic band. One that I definitely, I to be honest, now I'm thinking it should have been in my honorable mentions, to say the least, because of their impact.
Yeah.
100%. No doubt about it. My number 5 is Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Oh, yeah.
To me, and they are a direct lineage to a band that I definitely think will be on both of our lists. But they are everything American rock is. There's a little bit of country. There's folk. There's rock. You know what I mean? There's old style rock.
Yeah.
He's as big of a fan as Roy Orbison and the oldies as he is of the newer stuff. And he wants to sound current while at the same time 1 foot in the past. And a hell of a band.
Yeah.
I mean, Ben Mount Tunch is an amazing fucking piano player, and I think is the most British name for an American ever. I think he's top of the list. Mike Campbell, an amazing guitar player. The fact that he kept that band together for so long, Howie on bass until he, passed away. Like, just a great band who put out amazing records all the time that just really, to me, One that's definitely never going to be on my list is a Bruce Springsteen and his E Street Band. To me, Tom Petty were them, but they were less pretentious. And I think they spoke more to your heart than your brain sometimes.
Yep.
And I think that lasts longer in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah,
to
of
me,
course.
just like, you know, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers is just one of those bands that's a constant of American rock in every sense of the word, you know?
Yeah.
You can hear his influences. I mean, shit, sometimes he's more Dylan than Dylan in his vocal sound, you know what I mean? And it's just like you hear everything that he loves and everything that they do as a band, and yet at the same time, you know, even his solo stuff is amazing. You know what I'm saying? Like, and yet still keeps a sound, but you can tell the difference nonetheless when it's the Heartbreakers and when it's Tom Petty.
Yeah.
And that shows you just how important that band is. Which again, he does write with the other members of the band, despite making sure to put his name in front.
Yeah.
You know, but and another one that also has, I remember when he passed, like, the feeling that you got from a lot of people was like, man, this is a huge bummer, man. And I remember I can't remember what college it was, but they were playing I Won't Back Down, and the whole stadium just starts singing it out loud.
That's cool.
And it's a beautiful moment, man. So
I still regret not seeing him when I.
Oh, I can
when I had the
imagine.
chance, yeah.
I heard nothing but great things about his shows. I mean, the guy, you know, again, they're a great band, and to me, they are like. There's a band that I'll get to that I think they are a direct lineage from when it comes to the sound of Americana and its rock and roll in every sense of the word. But that was my number 5. How about yours?
Number 5. This is another one, another weird choice.
Okay.
Out of left field. I chose the band Christian Death.
Okay.
I think when they started up, they took what had come out of the UK sound, the Batcave sound, mixed a lot of punk aesthetics into that, and kind of created two scenes at once out here.
Okay.
The goth scene, obviously,
Right.
and then the death rock scene.
Okay.
Very again, all these bands, I'm gonna tout them as being incredibly artistic, which is one of the reasons I chose them also. But Christian Death comes out of Pomona. They I don't know, they took really weird chances with the way they presented themselves.
Oh, definitely.
The music was very emotional.
Yeah.
It was probably the first time that I, as an individual, had heard somebody try to be as emotional as that in the music setting.
I know what you mean.
Know? Especially in something where if it's being in your face like punk is, it usually you're not talking
Typically
to the
more
individual.
butch. You know, you're not. Yeah, I got you.
Right?
You're not as
also,
vulnerable.
Yeah, you're not talking to the listener directly. You're talking to the mass. It's like,
great
hey,
point.
you guys got to fight the system or whatever the hell, right?
Dude.
This one's more like, hey, your heart hurts, so does mine.
Yeah.
Let's commiserate on this.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think for that reason alone, you know, Christian Death, especially the version with Roz Williams, in my opinion, the only version.
I got you.
You know, that's the one that stood out, influenced a lot of bands.
No doubt.
You know, even bands that probably won't admit it openly.
Oh,
they
I mentioned there's black metal bands that are.
Oh yeah,
you
of
know
course.
What I mean?
Yeah. Like a lot of what you hear in goth or even just darker toned music now. Christian Death was doing in early '80s.
And another one too. Like I know it seems nothing now, but at the time, the idea that you called your band Christian Death.
Christian Death as a play on Christian Dior.
Right.
Because Roz was very much into fashion,
Right.
alternative fashion and stuff like that. So it's wild.
I mean, the idea. I mean, I can remember like seeing that in a CD store and be like, "Wow, that's ballsy."
Yeah.
Christian
and then
Death.
When you realize what their logo actually is, and it's
Oh yeah, no, look, they were pushing boundaries. They were definitely pushing up against, and a band that's again influential wise, absolutely no, fantastic, and not surprised. I know how much they mean to you.
Yeah.
My number 4, again, a band that I will. Admittedly, I'm not the world's biggest fan, but I just think their impact is so massive in so many ways. And another one that I think was appreciated at the time, but now we appreciate them so much more. My number 4, Sly and the Family Stone.
Good one.
You know, just so much of the, you know, there's so much pioneering going on. The idea they were integrated band. Like, I know that seems almost like, well, but no. Remember, 5 or 6 years prior to this band coming together, there were parts of the South you could not be integrated doing anything.
Yeah.
So this idea that the integrated band with, you know, and by the way, not just integrated in color, but also in sex.
Right.
You know, it's a woman trumpet player up there who's also doing vocals and does a bunch of other shit. You know what I mean? But with funk, soul, psychedelic rock, also political.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But political without being aggressive or preachy,
It's
more
not
about
in your
pushing
face.
love and
Yeah.
saying, hey, unity, well, look at us. We're all up here together. You can be all together out there. There's
Right.
more of us than there are of them. Let's unite, Let's not even get into their sound. Larry Graham essentially invents the slapping technique of bass, which goes on in every funk player better learn how to fucking do this shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that sort of thing, it become, influencing, again, people who would make this list, but nonetheless, Prince, Outkast, Stevie Wonder, Parliament Funkadelics.
Yeah.
I mean, they continue to show people what is possible with music. And, he's a bit of a controversial figure a little bit in many ways that are understandable. He has put his hands on some people that probably he definitely shouldn't be. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, the legacy of that band, I think, is massive in ways that even now we're still realizing. And I just think, like, again, shaping how rock will become and what it will sound like, you got to give it up to Sly and the Family Stone,
Good one.
But they were my number 4. How about yourself?
My number 4 is I don't think you can make a film about war in the 60s without this band.
Okay.
And it is Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Okay.
This is, for me, my only real Americana type sounding band.
I got you.
If you tell me to think of a kind of a generic setting for what America might be at a specific time between the 50s and 70s,
Sure.
it is this band.
Yeah.
This band is the soundtrack.
Oh, it's, they're on my list. They're much higher, but yes.
And again, I look at what this band has done, what others I think have taken from them.
Yes.
And for me, this is one of the more influential ones on this list.
100%.
Because it's just so, eponymous with what the American sound is for me.
It's almost to the point, it's almost like Led Zeppelin's influence. You don't even realize it anymore because it's so ubiquitous in everything that anyone's ever picked up.
Yeah.
So the moment you want to play anything that's even close to American rock, it's going to have some Creedence in it.
When I think of also what the American dream would have been, there are certain songs of theirs that are, again, the soundtrack to this.
Certainly.
To this setting, right?
Yeah.
So I think just on that alone, Creedence gets where it's at right now.
You will get no argument from me on Creedence, my friend. You know what I mean? If someone stole that out of my car, I'd be calling the cops too, just like the dude.
Oh, dude, yeah.
My number 3 is one that has already been mentioned, and that's The Doors.
All right.
My top 3 were solidified the moment I knew we were going to do this, because to me, I believe these 3 are the greatest American rock bands of all time.
Okay.
The Doors and everything that came before, there wasn't. It was a kind of, again, an AD and a BC.
Yeah.
Who sounded that dark at that time and could still get on the radio?
Right.
And by the way, a radio edit. Like, ooh,
Sure,
look at us.
yeah.
You won't play our 7-minute version, but you'll play this you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of thing, putting the poetry in their music the way they did, being in these weird songs, like the Alabama song. This is 1930s Broadway song.
Yeah.
Again, you could do People Are Strange, which, by the way, still feels gothy and strange to this day.
Yeah,
and
to
came
this
out
day.
in 1967.
Yep.
And you just think with all the stuff that they combine, blues and country and R&B and just, not R&B, but like blues but like they have blues, certainly the blues.
Sure.
But
he was a big blues guy.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's country stuff in there. There's folk stuff. There's also, again, like you said, world music without knowing that we're going to say world music now.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're taking from German sounds. They're taking from weird, you know what I mean?
Spain.
Very,
and all that stuff,
oh, God, yes, of course. Spanish Caravan.
Spanish
My
Caravan,
God, And then, like I said, but could still write a hit song like "Hello, I Love You." That's just this
had
cute little pop
politics in
song.
there,
Yeah.
with the Unknown Soldier, right?
And then yes, they could also be very political in ways that were dark.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No wonder they're used in fucking Apocalypse Now.
Of
Like
course,
what other band at that time would have fit that? Would have fit that?
Yeah.
Like they were. You could argue in some way they're almost metal. In some ways, you know what I mean? The dark and everything that they do. So, yeah, to me, the third greatest American rock band of all times. Those first 5 albums, I know they made a couple when Morrison had died, and they're okay, but
they're not good.
They're not. But but I understand. I mean, look,
Sure.
they shouldn't have to quit just because that. But man, when you look at those first 5, like with Soft Parade, in my opinion, being their weakest album and still a great album.
Yeah.
Like, motherfuck, dude, what a run.
Yeah.
What
Oh,
a
yeah.
run. But yeah, they were my number 3. How about you?
Mine is, again, very typical to me.
Uh-huh.
One of the greater American punk rock bands
Right on.
is the Misfits.
Right on.
77 to 82.
Gotcha.
I think this band, aside from the Black Flags of the world,
Mhm.
is another of the more highly influential bands.
I am now kicking myself. They should have at least made my
They-
honorable mentions.
They, you don't start a punk band without covering a Misfits song.
Yeah.
They had a story that was larger than what they were.
Yeah.
There are forums and message boards dedicated to just the history of this band.
Absolutely.
And aside from combining everything that other bands, like the aforementioned Ramones, where it's the bubblegum approach at
Mhm.
certain songs, or mixing in the sing-along choruses that
Yeah.
they did in some other songs, and
50s
being
doo-wop
experimental.
and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they were also like experimental.
Oh, for sure.
Even with like stuff like Devil's Whorehouse, which
Yeah.
is
Well, the
uh,
original band being no guitar in it.
no guitar, having a keyboardist, bass, and drums, a jazz drummer of all
Yeah.
things, right? Yeah, you start off at a place that's really confusing. It cements itself, but then it changes on a dime.
Right.
know?
Every
And
album is different than the one that came before.
Every release is different than the one before, but it's still cohesive
Mm.
enough to be known as the same
No,
band.
yes. Yeah.
Right? And it's a weird thing that the Misfits did. Again, one of the more recognizable logos in the world, which along with, the one we were talking about before with the Rolling Stones and all that shit. Like, it's, I don't know, this band, when I think of American punk, the Misfits is one of the bands that has to be mentioned.
You are absolutely, again, I'm kicking myself. I can't believe I didn't think about putting them at least in an honorable mention, because you're right. I mean, and the influence, too.
Yeah, the influence.
I mean, outside of punk, once again. Like, if
Yeah.
you're a pop punk band, you are definitely listening to and inventing a genre.
Yeah, totally.
Even if it didn't come out right after they did, it eventually did come out.
It did come out, and everyone that's in that genre is a copy of the Misfits.
You do at least one Misfits cover.
Yeah, you do one.
You have
'cause
an EP that's
if you
got a
know what's
cover.
good for you.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And I was kind of debating on whether combining 3 bands in that selection.
I gotcha.
I don't think I'm going to mention the other 2,
Okay.
which is Sam Hain and Danzig.
Sure. I see.
But I
Yeah.
think the Misfits more so than Sam Hain.
Oh, absolutely. No. Longevity, maybe, and maybe in 20 years we reconvene and do this again. Maybe
Yeah.
Sam Hain's influence will
yeah.
suddenly be.
I do think
Again, I think it just also shows, once again, something that's touched on a couple of these bands ahead of their time.
ahead of the time.
Did a
for
thing
sure.
that not everybody was into at the time, and now we
Right.
all look back and go, how the hell was everybody not into this?
Yeah, and I think the same thing with Danzig, where obviously he does have a place in all this,
Sure.
and he probably should have gone on my honorable mentions.
I gotcha.
But if this were if we had 11, he'd be on my number 4 at some place.
I gotcha.
But yeah, the number 3 is the Misfits.
No, again, great selection. At the very least, should have been in my honorable mentions. My number 2, already been talked about, but again, to me, you said it, to me, they are the sound of Americana, and that's Creed's Clearwater Revival.
Hell yeah.
They, to me, are the epitome of keep it simple, stupid. I don't need 65 chords. No. These 3 will do. And believe me, I'm going to write a song that's going to rock your fucking socks off.
Yeah.
I can get emotional with Lodi, or, I always forget the title of that, but wrote a song for everyone, but I couldn't even talk to you.
Oh yeah.
I mean, god damn, that crushes me every time I hear it. Be Political with Fortunate Son.
Yeah.
Definitely they were against the Vietnam War. They were, again, just all the things combining, again, country, bluegrass, R&B, covering, to see it almost come full circle where they will cover Ray Charles, who is such an influence on them.
Yeah.
And then to watch Tina and Ike Turner cover their song.
Yeah.
That had to be tremendous for them. The idea that they had everybody fooled thinking these are a bunch of Southern boys. Meanwhile, they're coming from Northern California. I mean, John Fogerty, I think, is massively underrated in the songwriter category.
Yeah.
I think those who know, but when he unfortunately passes, I think a lot of people are going to go, oh, wow, did we fuck up not giving this guy way more flowers when he was alive?
Yeah.
I just think he is one of those great singer-songwriters of all fucking time, and that band fucking rocked. Those albums, you talk about a 5-album run. Holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that first album, granted, bunch of covers, but that's kind of what you did back then. You didn't get to, they didn't trust you, kid. Sorry.
Right.
And then he just comes in and he is just rattling off kick-ass song after kick-ass song. And that band is tight as shit. You listen to their live albums, they're not fucking around, man. And it just, to me, again, you don't get Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers without Creedence Clearwater.
Yeah.
You don't get that Americana sound. You don't get the, as much as I don't like him, but whatever. Bruce Springsteen's another one. You're not getting it without Creedence. All those, it starts there to me. And they take the sound of rock and roll that is America, but they define it as American rock and roll, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But that was my number 2. How about you?
My number 2 is another typical to me. I put High on Fire. Number 2.
Right on. Okay.
I needed to put this back because I am a huge fan of theirs.
Amazing band.
I think Matt Pike and the boys kind of take what the essence of being in a rock and roll band and put an 8-cylinder engine behind it, and then you get High on Fire.
Fuck yeah.
I think what they do with the bare bones of what a rock song should be, and kind of drag it in the mud and then give it back to you and say, here it is, it's really, firstly, really well done.
Yeah.
A way that's entirely original to them.
Yes.
But you can also hear their influences.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
For sure.
Like,
and all great musicians.
all great musicians. But the thing that I like is the thing that they do wear their influences on their sleeve.
For sure.
Whether it's European bands or even older American bands. Exactly what they're trying to do. But again, it's in a way that's entirely original of High on Fire.
Filtered through them, man.
Yeah, and it's, they probably have influenced many, many other bands. I mean, I'm in a rip-off band myself of High on Fires. But I also think what's special about them is that nobody can ultimately copy them to the extent that they are a High on Fire rip-off.
I hear you.
Right? Like, High on Fire is so individually singular in a world of heavy abrasive music where like no other band can still come close to that.
And if you do, you sound exactly like High on Fire.
And exactly.
Again, created their own language.
Their own language, right. Yeah. So there are the fact that a newer band by all, by what we're going through here, as far as like the other bands, 20, 6 years at this point, 27 years, to create your own language in a world that's becoming more and more inundated with music, and their language still stands out in the way that it does.
And hell of a track record with the albums.
Yeah.
They're all, I mean,
very
you can have your
consistent.
favorites, but they are consistently all very good.
Yeah.
Again, big High on Fire fans here at the rehearsal room. No doubt about it.
Yeah. So that's, my number 2.
Right on. My number 1, to me, again, this is where it all starts for me. It's the Beach Boys.
Okay.
They have, again, they are combining all the things that they loved about the early elements of rock and roll, combining it with this ultimate West Coast feel.
Yeah.
And I mean, to the point where it's like literally people want to go to Southern California because it sounds like a vacation spot in every sense of the word. And it's like, well, only this one little part of LA, but other than that, you know what I mean? But it's just like, all the things that they absorbed, all the things, but also like, when you look at some of the deeper songs, like songs really dealing with like loneliness and vulnerability in ways that's like, oh wow, I that when I grew up to be a man, it's a guy like you didn't hear these in teen angst songs. It was he broke up with me or she left me.
Yeah.
This is a guy going, will I be able to grow up? I don't know. This adulting thing looks pretty fucking scary, and I don't know that I want to do it. You know what I mean? And stuff like, Don't Worry Baby, where it's like, technically the song's about a guy who's agreed to a drag race, and you're kind of like, well, okay, but what do you mean don't worry? Oh, because it's the girlfriend. He's scared, and the girl keeps, don't worry, baby. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be like, wow, okay. And then when you get into it, again, while not every member of the Beach Boys contributed, Mike Love did write a lot of the songs. God knows he's sued enough to get credit for them.
Sure.
Obviously, the genius behind it all is Brian Wilson.
Yeah,
and, I do not throw that word around lightly. I honestly believe he is a musical genius in certain ways. he literally one of those people that changed the way we record albums in every sense of the word. One of those first bands, along with the Beatles. And by the way, I know that commercial success isn't necessarily something you and I give two shits about, but it is something to be said. When the British invasion comes in, every American band is pretty much wiped out, or you better start sounding like the Beatles.
Yep.
And the Beach Boys were really the only American band that went, fuck you, we're still the Beach Boys, and we can compete, and did.
Yeah.
And, pushing the envelope on an album like Pet Sounds and Good Vibrations and stuff like that, and showing what you could do in the studio, even if you couldn't produce it live, that you could make sophisticated pop music. It didn't have to just be bubblegum. You could really introduce weird time signatures and weird instruments into it. Now, granted, Pet Sounds was not a massive hit in this country when it came out, really big in Europe, especially in England.
Yeah.
But, over the years, we have all kind of gone and went, oh, wow, yeah, way ahead of its time. This is a masterpiece in every sense of the word. And I just think it's one of those things where they laid so much of the groundwork of what American bands could do, how they were going to sound in the future, and then everybody took from that and went forward.
Yeah.
They didn't add the country that perhaps Creedence did, or the goth sound of the darkness that the Doors did, but all of them, like, let's be honest, not invented by the Beach Boys by any stretch of the imagination.
Sure,
But if you were doing vocal harmonies, you probably picked up a Beach Boys record.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So for me, they're clearly for me the number one. When and again, my list is more. I wanted to kind of put it in some historical context.
Okay.
It didn't have to be, but I kind of liked it in that way. So yeah, for me, they were definitely going to be my number one. How
My
about
number one is, no surprise, it is Neurosis.
you? Right on.
I think we had mentioned they were going to pop up on our list at one point.
This one and the Creedence and Doors, I assumed would be on our list.
Yeah, I would be lying if I thought about any other band that would have been my number one.
I got you.
And even for me, historically speaking, they are one of the first ones that when I came up on them, I looked into what their reach was as far as like how many other people know about this.
Right.
And everyone knew about this band. Like everyone who was into any subculture that I was in, and the fact that they could speak to the metal kid, the punk kid, the goth kid,
the art kid,
the skater kids,
right.
Because they come from backgrounds, they come from a hardcore punk background.
Absolutely.
They were skater folks back in the day. You have Noah, who's a lot more artistic in his own right, a lot more experimental with the keyboard stuff and whatnot. They introduced visuals into the live setting. And so it brings this whole other level of creativity into a body that is honestly way bigger than anybody involved in the band, right?
Oh, fantastic point. Yeah, I love bands like that too, where the entity of Neurosis is bigger than any individual in Neurosis.
Yeah.
There's like almost like, well, for them, I guess, a seventh member, if you will.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
Yeah, and they are a band that to me has their own language. Also, like there's a feel for this in this band's music
for sure
that I think other bands try to reach. And it's for as simplistic as they can be, which is still not all that simplistic.
No.
But as simplistic as it might be, with other bands using more gear or more attempts to reach what Neurosis has done, they don't come close.
No.
I don't know. They are one of those forever bands that think if you were to tell people like, hey, what type of music is gonna last into, the end of time, I do think Neurosis speaks to that. They are one of the contenders where
I think their albums will still like blow people's minds for the first time they hear it.
Yeah, especially
no matter what.
Especially if you see the evolution of the music and even the people in the band.
Oh
right?
yeah,
like, even with what came and went and what's in there now.
Yeah,
they are a band that knows how to repair itself.
Yeah.
And still be the band that they've always been. Right?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. No, they're on my list. I think they're, our love for them is eternal, and I think it's a band that, certainly changed both of us, and has a lot to do with what I listen to.
Yeah.
The same way Metallica did the same thing for my early years. So yeah, no, great band. There's no bad. Like I said, I don't think there's any wrong answers on this thing other than Aerosmith and Red Hot Chili Peppers. But to me, it's just a matter of taste in a lot of ways and how you want to formulate your list. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't think there's any wrong answers. I think that's the beauty of these kind of things.
I did argue with myself primarily, obviously, with a couple of these entries. I did want to include Oingo Boingo, of which I am a big fan of.
Yeah, no,
that's
a great honorable mention, if nothing else.
Yeah, and I'm gonna one more honorable mention or two more. Question Mark and the Mysterians.
Okay, yeah.
They first got called punk back in 1971, and were weird. Weird to this day. Still
calls himself Question Mark. Yeah.
Question Mark. Yeah, So I don't know how much.
It's certainly identifiable, that weird keyboard sound.
Exactly. Yeah.
With those that time where you got those weird one-hit wonders that the song has lasted forever.
Yeah,
with 99.
When you needed to be like on a comp or you needed a radio kind of hit type.
Well, and it was so weird and so different than anything else that it still sounds fresh now. You still listen to it and it could still fit into whatever you're listening to.
Yeah. And then the other one, I think the last one would have been Los Lobos.
Okay, yeah.
Because they did start as a punk band, as a punk rock band.
Right.
Mixed in a lot of that kind of southwestern blues twang in there.
Sure. No.
And became what they are now. But again, I think their influence and their presence over the years has outgrown what that band, I think, initially set out to be also, And I think they're a success story in and of themselves.
Like I said, I mean, you can go down the list and there's tons of great bands that America has produced.
Yeah.
I like I said, I really don't think there's any wrong answer. Whatever list you have, it's going to be, because again, this is up to you. It doesn't, there is, greatest anything. There's no absolute in this. This is all up to the listener. And as we talk about all the time, with as subjective as music can be, it's really just up to you.
Yeah.
There's no bad answer. I think that's why I love doing these things, because it's always interesting to see where we pair and where we don't, where we go, and how. And I think both of our lists reflect who we are.
Yeah.
Which a list ultimately should.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it doesn't. I'm not trying to win brownie points with putting any of these bands on. You know what I mean? I just think if I'm telling my story of American rock and roll, then I feel like this is the way it go, and in that order. You know what I mean?
And so another reason of why I felt like mine was going to be stacked the way it was because I came upon a bunch of obviously American rock bands as stereotypical as that might sound. Like a Tom Petty or Bruce Springsteen and all this shit.
Yeah.
I do appreciate all. I mean, I love Tom Petty.
I got you.
But I appreciated all that stuff after these other bands that I talked about.
Okay. Yeah. So the influence on you more than the influence on necessarily American rock and roll.
Yeah.
No, again.
And that's how I approached all these bands. I was like, how do I feel about them, having listened to them here in this country? Because again, I'm not from this country. So that was my reasoning.
Right on. No, like I said, I'm not here to. This isn't about judging a list. This is more about just like seeing what we come up with these sort of things.
Just in case somebody's like, you guys talk about these bands all the time.
Well, but I'll be honest. I mean, like, well, again, like if I'm putting down a list of favorites, whatever's, well, then you're gonna hear ones that we do talk about.
Yeah, for sure.
It'd be crazy to sit here and tell you about bands that I think are amazing American bands, and somehow Neurosis doesn't make it.
Yeah.
Like, what do you? Come on, Yeah. So to me, it's and it'd be disingenuous to some degree. And I felt the same way about Metallica, despite whatever I think of their latter career.
Yeah.
Like I can't help but say, I mean, the genre of metal, is there anyone bigger? Is there anyone more influential? Is there anyone that's had a greater impact? You know what I mean, on the overall global scale. You know.
Yeah.
So those things matter to me in my list.
Sure.
Whether they matter to you, and again, people listening, again, I'm sure they will have plenty of bands that are like, what the fuck? How'd you miss this one? You know.
So sorry to anybody that likes Aerosmith, Red Hot Chili Peppers.
I'm sorry you got to listen to them.
Primates and all this.
Anyway.
So what have you been watching, Aaron?
Well, a little bit here, a little bit there. I watched a really good one. I had it on my queue for quite some time, and finally just said, oh, fuck this. Why has this been sitting there so long? It turned out to be really good. A movie called Blink Twice. Zoe Kravitz, first movie she's directed.
Okay.
Also helped write it. So, first time we should get a little, let's see how this goes.
Yeah.
Well, wow. Way to knock it out of the park, kid.
Cool.
Channing Tatum, Christian Slater in it.
Oh, wow.
Naomi Aki, I think is how you say her last name.
Okay.
She is the main star. Her and the girl from Arrested Development, the one that what's his name falls in love with, even though they're cousins.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The two of them, they get invited to Channing Tatum's private island. And Channing Tatum is this tech guy who owns this private island. They go there. They don't know him. They don't know his friends, but they get invited. And on their way there, they meet these 4 other women that also got invited. And during the day, they're having the time of their lives. And they keep waking up and then finding like little things like, wait, do you remember what we did last night? Like, not really, but we must be having a good time because we're having a good time all the other times. And on and on. And it keeps going. And then more weird shit starts happening.
Cool.
And then we get to find out what's really going on this island. Gina Davis also in it.
Oh, cool.
She
Nice.
plays Channing Tatum's assistant. It's a movie with that, without giving anything away, it definitely speaks to the male-female dynamic.
Okay.
The idea of sometimes, again, I'm trying not to give anything away, but perhaps how women will placate men to feel safe around them, if that's what it takes.
Okay. Yeah.
Smile if you need to, so that you can get the fuck out of this situation.
Right. Right.
You know, does it in a really subtle way. Good gore if you like horror. Also, you know, just you're rooting. It felt like almost a instead of race, we're dealing with sex version of Get Out, if you will. Yeah, really enjoyed it. I wish I had seen it sooner. It's still, I believe it's still on Amazon.
Okay.
So I would highly recommend it. Again, I think it's maybe hour 40 minutes. You know, you're in, you're out. Once you get to meet these people, we're in the story. You don't mess around. It's good. The other one I watched, because it's Gerard Butler, and I'll watch pretty much anything with him in it. Greenland 2 Migration. I don't know if you've seen Greenland 1.
I haven't.
Oh, it had a lot of questions, so we had to follow it up with Greenland 2.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
it didn't. Not really sure why we made a Greenland 2. It also stars Marina Baccarin, I think is her, how do you say her? She was in Deadpool. That's probably the thing most people would know her
All
for.
right. Yeah, she was the Domino character. in
Yes.
Deadpool, yeah.
No. She's Deadpool's girl.
Yeah, that's the same one. She's
No.
supposed to be the Domino character.
I thought Domino was. Isn't she in the second one that parachutes?
Yeah, but they were supposed to make her character Domino
Oh.
before they actually wrote in a Domino.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
I did
Yeah.
not know that. All right.
Yeah.
Either way, Greenland is about the idea that meteors hit the Earth, and now it's kind of a nuclear winter, and then he's trying to get his family to where he hears there may be shelter, and it turns out, yes, they have bunkers in Greenland, and they're taking as many people as they can. He finally gets his family there. Greenland 2 is the bunkers aren't working out as much as we think, but there's telltale that a crater has hit a place in France so deep that a new ecosystem has started. And as this place where they're living is starting to run out of food and the ability to actually keep people healthy, maybe they need to find their way there. So,
Wow. Okay.
you know, again, it has an which I don't mind, has an environmental kind of, we need to preserve the earth, we can take care of each other, let's unite kind of feel to it. The reality is Gerard Butler stars in it. I'm there. I'll watch anything with him in it.
So this is kind of like a dystopian movie, like
to a degree, yes. I mean, I would say it's probably more in line with like, was it like One Day, Day After Tomorrow?
Okay.
You know, the weather changes, and oh my God, we got to get to shelter. That kind of thing. The first one. The second one is now our shelter's fucked. We've got to go. There's promise of this place where we could live with clean air and so on and so forth. Can we get there? Hence the migration.
Right. Yeah.
The last new one I watched, fantastic. I thought it was really good. Send Help. I don't know if you've seen the.
I want to see this one too.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is on Hulu.
Yeah.
Directed by Sam Raimi, Evil Dead, Doctor Strange 2, the Spider-Man movies.
No, actually, we did see this. I'm sorry.
Did you?
Sam
Okay.
Raimi. Yeah.
Rachel McAdams, Game Night, Spotlight, and that Dylan O'Brien from Cato Lake.
Sherlock Holmes.
Yes. I would say, the way I've told people, think about Misery meets Castaway.
Yes, you're correct on this.
That's what it was. Fantastic. It was so much fun.
It was a fun movie.
She is amazing in it. She's one of those things, because it's horror, she's not going to get the credit she deserves.
Yeah.
But she is fantastic in it. She is so good. The character change from the beginning to the end is tremendous.
Amazing. Yeah.
It
is a great movie.
Oh, so much fun. And I mean, don't get me wrong. as I'm telling you what this story is, I think you'll figure out how this is going to end and how it's not. He's not creating new ground, but
No.
boy, oh boy, if at any moment you forget it's Sam Raimi directing, don't worry. There's going to come some parts where you go, oh, that's right, the Evil Dead guy. Yeah, that's why I'm watching this part where I'm about to vomit from.
I also don't know if you noticed, a lot of the delivery of the lines was very over the top, which is very Sam Raimi.
Again, yes, almost silly. I mean,
Yeah,
it was
when-
it
like when
almost played
the-
for comedy, even though you're watching a horror movie.
That's what it is. When the guy takes her basically credit for her work, goes into the meeting, he's like, "Hey, look at what I did,"
Right.
you know, and it's just very over the top. And
The tuna on the side of
The
her
tuna,
face,
yeah,
and that's all he
exactly.
can focus on.
Yep.
No, I think it's great. I was looking forward to seeing it from the moment I saw the commercials for the trailers. So I'm glad it lived up to it.
and Help was awesome.
It was so good. I believe that's on Hulu right now.
Hulu, yeah.
Fucking great. I loved it. When another new one, we watched it actually last night. Punisher: One Last Kill.
Also saw that. Yeah.
Fucking A, dude. Oh man, was that good. I mean, for me, like, that's what I'm looking for in a Punisher. That's all I need. I mean, good God, some of those kills, I mean, Jesus Christ. John Wick would be like, bro, you need to calm the fuck down.
You need to chill.
Like 2 shots to the head will do, my friend.
Yeah.
You know, great stunts. The tremendous fight work in it is just great.
Yeah.
Bernthal can get a little over the top sometimes, but I think he plays the Punisher in that kind of mentally unstable, ready to kill anything in my way that it does need. I would, again, as a person who doesn't know the comics, I mainly know it through the movies and the television shows.
Yeah.
But he just, man, wow, is it good. And the other thing I think a lot of people I did see online, which I did like, the guy who owns the shop also played Bunny on The Wire.
Oh, shit.
And everybody's like, well, that means The Wire is now part of the MCU. Fuck you, everybody.
Nice.
So, fucking tremendous. I thought it was really good. To be honest, I knew it was a short one. It was like 51 minutes.
50 minutes.
When it ended, I went, oh, what? No.
Yeah,
No. I need more,
Yeah.
Which I think is a good sign,
Oh, definitely. I think there's always going to be a demand for the Punisher just because he's one of those, maybe not so much the staple characters in Marvel, but enough people know about him to ask for it, and demand it.
And I was really surprised he never called the cops the entire time.
Anyway,
yeah. 2 things that I went back and watched, and one thing I'm continuing to watch, but I went back and watched Something About Mary. God damn, that is so good. I mean,
they talked about this on Rewatchables.
They did,
Yeah.
and thank goodness they're trying to pick movies where you can actually find them, where before it would be like, yeah, great, it's not on anything, assholes. So you rewatched it, but we didn't get to.
Yeah.
But yeah, as soon as it was done, I went and watched it, and I just, God, that whole movie is just, it's so tremendously great. It's just joke after joke after joke. They are just pummeling you.
Yeah.
And it's just like everything about it. I love that movie. And the Farrelly brothers, I mean, at that point, they're really at their peak. Excuse me, they have such a run too that I even some of the ones that didn't do as well, like Me, Myself, and Irene, I still think.
Oh, that's a hilarious
amazing,
movie.
fucking hilarious movie. Hallow Shall, when they start to go down a little bit, I still love it. Kingpin is vastly underrated, I believe.
That's
in their pantheon of movies. Anyway,
for sure.
And the last one I'm continuing to do. It was fun to go back, and I finished the first season. There's only 3. I started the Spawn series on HBO.
The cartoon?
The Todd McFarlane presents.
Hell yeah.
Very interesting to go back and watch that.
With Mr. Keith David
yes.
on Spawn's voice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just good memories. I remember as a kid watching those and just being like, what is this? This is so fucking dark.
Yeah.
Like, I forgot, like, the first season is a guy who's picking up children and fucking raping and murdering them. And you're like, wow, first season, huh? Like, Jesus, where are we going from this,
it's that whole, I mean, the comic is heavy, the cartoon was heavy. The movie, I think, took some of that away just to try to make it more.
I believe because that's PG-13.
PG-13.
So that I remember watching the movie. I enjoyed it. It was great to see it in live action, but you definitely felt like, a little watered down. Isn't it? Like, come on.
The fact that the clown is still there.
Yeah.
Name the Violator. You know,
Right.
but isn't the clown that we know from
No.
the cartoon and the comics.
I mean,
It's just-
Leguizamo does his best, but you can only do it with what you have.
yeah.
I do wonder about that too. Like now that the Deadpools, the Logans, the
Yeah.
Punishers have shown us, like, oh no, we can do comics as heavy as anything. Let's do this. Like, it would be nice to see if somebody could maybe bring that back.
For the
And
longest time, Todd McFarlane has wanted to make
I-
a rated R version of Spawn.
I would love it. Well, that was interesting too. Is like reading stuff where it was like, I get Spawn hits and it's at the time selling more than like Spider-Man and stuff.
Yeah,
So now
yep.
of course everyone's coming to see, okay, we want to do a cartoon. And he said at first it's like some of these people are approaching me wanting to do a Saturday morning cartoon of Spawn, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to explain, how the fuck would you have me make Spawn for a Saturday morning cartoon?
Yeah.
And he said that when he met with HBO, he said the first thing he asked them, can I say fuck? And they said yes. And he said, I figured if I knew I could say fuck, then I could pretty much do anything else
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
But just also that old style HBO where it's like it does the lead in where it's going through the weird warehouse and then suddenly he's standing there, hey, what would you do if the devil was, it's like, oh yeah, I remember when HBO would do this kind of
Yep.
Tales from the Crypt start of our shows.
The little teaser starts.
Exactly. But yeah, the other thing that strikes me is how slow it is.
Oh yeah, it's because
You
it's
know-
supposed to be it's supposed to be like a detective story.
But yet it existed in a time where we were even then hearing like, oh, everything's so MTV cut. It's quick cuts. And for its time, it may have been. But you watch it now and you're like, wow, this is really taking its time. And I don't
Yeah.
mean that in a bad way. Like, it's really taking its time. It's setting the setting. It's telling the story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's so interesting to kind of see that. But yeah, man, I forgot that first season. Like, wow, they really go for it. So I'm excited to start the second season. And like I said, the
It's
other thing was
cool,
just a
yeah.
shame. Yeah, 3 seasons. Oh, what a bummer, man. Fuck.
Yeah.
You know, but HBO taking that kind of leap into animation, and I guess it just didn't work out. But
There was a rumored movie with Jamie Foxx as the Spawn character.
Oh,
as
interesting. Okay.
Obviously the non-burnt up version of him.
yes.
But if my timeline isn't incorrect,
Mm-hmm.
they also did this because at one point MTV had Liquid TV,
Yeah.
and there was a comic title on there, not Aeon Flux. They had the Max. Do you remember
Oh, I certainly the name. Yes, and I certainly remember Liquid Television. I
So
mean, that's how
the-
we get Eon and Beavis and Butthead.
this? Yeah, so the Max was this big kind of purple and yellow monster
Yes,
with
yes,
spikes in
yes.
his hands.
Okay, yeah.
And his partner was like a blonde girl who was kind of from like the outback.
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And she carried a spear.
Okay.
And they fought like little weird oily creatures and stuff like that. So that was also an Image title, which Spawn comes from Image Comics.
Ah, okay.
And that one, I want to say that's when comic books also started coming into popular culture a little bit more.
Well, certainly, yeah. I mean, like, again, I wasn't reading comics, so when
Yeah.
Spawn comes on, I'm like, I don't know what a Spawn is.
Right?
But I see the commercials and go, that's right up my alley. I
Yeah,
want to see
yeah.
this. I mean, my dad and I would watch it together,
Nice.
and my dad dug it. A little weird with the nudie parts and, some of the sex, but so be it, you sit through it. What are you going
He
to do?
had to learn somewhere.
Well, let me teach you the birds and the bees
Yeah,
of
yeah.
Spawn, son. But I just remember like that was like appointment viewing for my father and I. We
Nice,
totally
yeah.
dug watching that. And yeah, without being a comic book guy, it was just like, well, this just looks fucking awesome.
Yeah,
Comic
yeah.
or not, I don't know what it is. I don't care. I just want to watch
Spawn's
it.
awesome.
But
Yeah.
it did have that moment where it felt like, Spawn was the thing
Yeah.
that everybody was in. So it's
Yeah.
really cool to go back and watch it.
That's cool.
How about yourself? What you been watching?
Aside from Send Help, also watched One Last Kill, which I loved. My one criticism, and I think this plays into what you said about him being a little over the top sometimes, he reminds me a little too much of Rorschach from
Interesting.
from
Okay. Yeah. The Watchmen.
Watchmen, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the delivery that Bernthal is giving is just a little too much Rorschach for my taste.
Well, he helped write this.
Yes. Yeah.
So you definitely go like, and there's no offense to him. It's just to say,
Of course.
he's writing some stuff where he's like, I'm really going to push it here, man.
Yeah.
I want to show, especially that guy. I like him, but he can be a little, I don't take naps. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That kind of guy. You know what I mean? Which is say, well, fuck you. More naps for me,
Right.
But, it's like, are you writing this because you think it furthers the story, or this will look good on my reel and I can expand myself as an actor?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. So I do hear lines that are very reminiscent of what the Punisher is in the comics,
Right on.
which I love, because that's how I gauge whether this is going to be good
Sure.
or not.
No,
right?
no, definitely.
But there are some lines where I'm just like, oh boy. Oh
You
boy.
mean like when she says, "Well, guess what? You're about to be punished."
Yes,
You're
exactly.
Like, really, bro?
Yeah.
Like that line would have been cut. Like that should have been like, no. That's just there for now. That's a stand-in line.
Yeah,
We're coming
yeah.
back to that.
We're gonna redo
Yeah.
that part.
Which,
yeah.
by the way, Judith Light, like,
dude.
what the fuck? Are you 9 million years old? And I looked
Yeah.
her up. She's 77. I was like, wow.
Miss,
I
what was her name? Miss Gucci or?
Well, she feels like she's been in our life forever.
I mean, she has. She is
But
America's
nonetheless,
mom.
only 77. She's not really, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
no,
Like,
she-
and she looks great in the. Well, I mean, they kind of muck her up a little bit to make her look older.
Right.
But man, I thought she was like, it was definitely one of these. Who is? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And then of course I have to think that you were very excited about what opened the Punisher.
Oh, dude.
right.
The whole thing starts off with Mother,
Yeah.
which is wait, what?
Yeah.
Is Danzig back at Disneyland?
Right. I was like, wait, like it literally started, and my kids were kind of talking, and I was just about to put my phone down because it's starting, and then I go, wait, what? And
Yeah.
I had to rewind it, like, whoa.
Yep.
Hush. Danzig
And-
is speaking.
And to his credit, he's working out.
Oh yeah,
To Danzig.
Yeah.
Which is the way we all do it.
Absolutely.
In case you didn't know.
I love the hate breed part of it too.
Oh, yeah, exactly, yeah.
and there is this part my son joked. He's like, "Is that playing in his head or is that for all of us to hear?" It's like that's a cry. I do
is
need
this
to know
first
that.
person or
Right.
third person?
Like
Yeah.
you all should be running. You hear the hate breed, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
No. That's only in Frank's head. Nobody else hears it.
Yeah, that was cool.
Right on.
I did go back and watch some older stuff
Right on.
primarily. So we're gonna actually end our 30 Rock
Oh,
run.
nice.
We're on the last season right now.
Nice.
It's hilarious
Great
as
show.
anything out there. Right now is the episode where Chris Cross and her spent Valentine's Day together.
Right on.
So I mean, if you're familiar with the series,
Oh,
you
it's-
know how good it's gonna get.
Yes.
Yeah. I also went back and I started watching True Detective.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I-
I told you we watched the first season.
Yeah, so I rewatched the first season with a kind of a perspective that I didn't have before.
Okay.
Where all the esoteric stuff happening,
Mm-hmm.
Russ is imagining that. None of it's actually happening.
Oh, okay.
Because what we like to, I think, overlook because of how great it is,
Mm-hmm.
Russ is also the character, or the character that had to go undercover and be addicted.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of these
He's not
visions-
exactly the most reliable narrator.
He's not, right?
Yes.
So at the end, when all the visions start coming up, it's only him that sees them, right?
Yeah.
He's the only one seeing the ghost of the little girl by the side of the road.
Yeah.
He's the one seeing all the visions when they're about to do the big hit on the house and stuff
Mhm.
like that. When they're escaping and he's kind of blacking out
Well, yeah, especially then because he's high as a
because
kite.
he's high as a kite, right? So because of his time undercover,
Mhm.
a lot of the residual effects of the drugs that he was taking,
No doubt. They have
Stayed
huge
in there.
effect on him.
and I think the fact that the cult, as they were,
Mm-hmm.
used these things they might have read about and used them to scare people because
Mhm.
everyone was so religious.
Mm-hmm.
But everything esoteric about True Detective is in Russ's head, and we
Okay.
just get to observe that.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
I kind of wanted to change my perspective on season 1
Mm-hmm.
because season 2, 3, and 4, they have these people who are also unreliable,
Mm-hmm.
and we see the esoteric parts as limited as they might be in these later seasons
Mm-hmm.
through their eyes and not everyone else, right?
Yeah.
So-
No doubt. Yeah.
So
Cool.
True Detective was another one. And then I watched an older movie, maybe from like the mid to late 90s,
Mm-hmm.
called Teenage Wasteland.
Oh, okay.
This is a kind of artsy movie. It is European.
Okay.
And I will spoil this because how easy it is to find, I don't know. It is 2 younger kids who kidnap a woman and take her to a warehouse to, in their words, see what happens.
Okay.
It sounds horrible already.
Yeah.
But it ends up being kind of a coming of age movie for one of the guys,
Okay.
because it plays very much into these homosexual tendencies that they enact with one another.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So one of them, by the end of the movie, is kind of declaring his love for his friend, and meanwhile the girl is untouched.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and she helps them kind of discover these emotions in one
Okay.
another. Yeah, it is, like I said, it's a weird movie. The setting is really weird because it's just like in a warehouse in this poor town in Europe somewhere.
Mhm.
I want to say it's maybe like Eastern European.
Okay. What led you to this?
Because I have a bunch of movies that I've just recently found out had audio description.
Oh, okay.
And because that library is so limited.
Sure.
And me just rediscovering these old movies kind of, just to keep them fresh in my
Right
head
on.
and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So it's been a long time that I've seen this one. There was one other one that I was wanting to talk about called Garden of Love, which
Okay.
is based on a poem by William Blake.
Okay.
The poem is really nothing, it is a dark, lovey-dovey poem,
Okay.
but the movie is really gory. It uses the setting of the poem as the setting of the movie,
Okay.
but it's just straight up a zombie film.
Is this foreign?
This is it's a German movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's, they don't spare on the blood and stuff
Right
like that.
on. Right
But
on.
if you know the poem, I think you appreciate it because they kind of reenact the poem in the movie,
Okay.
but with the guise of a zombie attack on the cemetery, because the Garden of Love happens to be a cemetery.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
You go there and you leave your love there
Sure.
because
Sure.
everyone's
Yeah.
buried.
Yeah, okay.
But then they're
Interesting.
coming back to life and wanting to eat your
Right,
heart,
your
and
brains.
stuff.
Yes.
Yeah,
Of course.
so yeah. So I kind of kept it simple because of the Sandhalp and Punisher were primarily the things that I wanted to check out,
Right on.
and I revisited these other two.
One that I left out because you had watched it last week and made me want to go back and check it out. I did check out The Dark Knight and just very, very much appreciate it. And, seeing it for the 5 billionth time and appreciating little things that I didn't notice before. One of the ones that did strike me is I love when the Joker shows up to their little meeting and at the one point the guy just goes, "You think you're just going to walk out of here with all our money?" He just kind of goes, "Yeah." like kind of questioning, but also like, yeah, like, I don't know. Why wouldn't I?
That whole scene is great because he's also like, "You're crazy." No, I'm not.
All of it is so good. The other one that I always fucking love is when that guy comes in there to tell Lucius and essentially he's like, so I understand, you think your boss is beating the shit out of criminals with his bare hands and you want to blackmail him?
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, good
and the
luck,
guy,
yeah.
you just see it kind of wash over him like, oh yeah, I didn't really think this through, did I?
I did go back and watch when you recommended Apex.
Oh, okay.
Loved it.
Yeah, right.
Loved it.
Good.
Amy did point out something.
Oh.
Apex also means when you get over the mountain, you climb the apex.
Which you could argue she
did.
Yes. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Double meaning. Very
Double
much.
meaning.
Very cool.
Double entendre.
Yeah.
As
No,
the
it was a
fans
good
say.
one. That was a fun, again, if I never see it again, I'll be fine. But
Yeah.
I'm glad I get to see it.
And
Thought
I-
it was really good.
And
Fun.
I did not feel bad for the Australian guy.
Oh, no,
Like,
no. He was a piece of shit. He
That dude
deserved
with
it.
his
Yeah.
funky ass teeth could, fall off to
Yeah.
the side
No.
any day.
Yeah, that was a cool one. That was a fun one.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Well, thank you guys again. Or thank you guys for joining us. And next list will be better. I promise you.
No, these lists were fine. And hey, if there's any we left off, let us know, man.
Let us know. I mean, obviously, I left off a bunch.
No, I don't. Look, again, I think these things should be personal in a lot of ways. So,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some bands that people are screaming at their radio right now or whatever. Radio, what am I on? Fucking old man. If you tune us in, everybody. Beep, beep, beep,
Thank you for
from
tuning
C's
into-
overseas. Here we go.
Thank you for tuning into Fireside Chat.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be here at 6 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, no, but I'm sure there's people yelling at their phones right now, like, "Oh man, how could they not said this band?" Well, let us know, man. I mean, again,
Let us know.
I don't think there's right or wrong answers to these things. I think it should be personal.
Get
because-
upset at us, but be nice about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know
Yeah. And we'll catch you guys soon.
later.
Howdy, folks. Thank you so much for spending time with us here at the Rehearsal Room. If you've got any recommendations you'd like for us to check out, whether it's a band, a movie, or anything else you think we'd be interested in, you can write to us at therehearsalroompod@gmail.com, all one word. We're also over on Instagram or Facebook, or even YouTube. You can also find us on any of the popular platforms for podcasts. And if you happen to know anybody that would be interested in any of the subjects we're talking about, please make sure to refer this show over to them. Make sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen to us, and we'll catch you soon.